The twin suns burned hot over the golden sands of Verexa 9. In the center of a massive desert camp, thousands stood in silence, watching the royal parade. Queen Seraka walked proudly, her white and gold dress flowing like fire in the wind. Her golden crown shone brighter than the sun. Her beauty was unreal, cold, strong, untouchable. Around her marched tall alien guards in desert armor. Everyone bowed. Everyone, except one boy. A human boy. Dust-covered, barefoot, maybe 10 years old. He stood in her path, not moving. The guard stepped forward. "Shall we remove him, my queen?" one asked, hand on his blade. But Queen Seraka raised a hand. She was amused. Her blue eyes locked on the small human with wild hair and a bold stare. "And who are you, little sand mouse?" she asked, her voice teasing. The boy didn't flinch. "I'm Jace," he said. "I came to see you." She raised an eyebrow. "And why is that?" "I want to marry you." The crowd gasped. Then laughed. Even the queen laughed, covering her mouth with her jeweled hand. "A human?" "Marry me," she said, her voice like silk. "You must be dreaming, little one." But the boy didn't laugh. He stared at her. Serious. Quiet. His face covered in sweat, but his eyes steady. "You said humans are weak," he said. "One day I'll be strong. Stronger than all of them." The queen tilted her head. "You think strength will make me say yes?" "I know it will." The laughter faded. Even the guards looked at each other, confused. Queen Seraka leaned closer. Her perfume was strong, like flowers and danger. "You're a brave little thing," she whispered. "But this world eats boys like you." He smirked. "I don't plan to stay a boy forever." The queen stood straight. She gave him a mocking smile. "Fine, Jace. Come back when you're all grown up, and I'll think about it." The boy didn't smile. He just nodded once. "I will." And then, he turned and walked away. No one stopped him. No one spoke. The queen stared at his small back as he vanished into the desert heat. 12 years later. The queen still remembered the boy. She would never admit it, but sometimes she thought about him. Not because she believed his words. No, she had met thousands of men. Warriors, kings, aliens from planets far stronger than Earth. But none of them looked her in the eye like that. None of them promised her something so crazy and made her believe it for half a second. She had tried to forget. She had ruled over empires, broken rebellions, and claimed new worlds. But now, strange news reached her ears. Rumors. A human warrior rising in the outer systems. A ghost. A soldier with no name, only scars and victories. "He doesn't speak much," one spy said. "But when he does, he speaks of a promise." A cold chill touched her spine. She dismissed it. Impossible. And yet, deep inside, something burned. Back on Earth, the boy named Jace had grown. Not just taller, harder. Stronger. He trained under fire, bled in wars, learned to kill, learned to lead. He remembered the queen every single day. Not because he loved her. Not yet. But because of the way she laughed. Because of how she looked at him like he was nothing. Because of how he swore to return. Now, in the distance, Queen Seraka stood on her balcony, her golden crown tilted back, her eyes watching the stars. She didn't know that someone was already on his way. He had grown. He had trained. He had bled. And now, he was coming back to claim what he was promised. The wind howled across the golden sands of Verexa 9. It was the same desert. But the boy was gone. 12 years had passed since Jace stood in front of the alien queen and made his promise. People had forgotten him. But the desert had not. There were places in Verexa where even the wind whispered his name. The queen never spoke about that day. Never mentioned the human child who stood alone before her and said he would marry her. But sometimes, when no one was watching, she would sit in silence, staring into the sands. And remembering. In the dark corners of her royal tent, her advisors whispered. The humans are growing stronger. There's talk of a rebel leader. They say he's not normal. Queen Seraka sipped her drink, eyes fixed on the fire. They say he was raised in death, trained in silence, and made a weapon of war. He wears no symbol. He carries no flag. But he has one mission. Her grip on the glass tightened. To return to Verexa. Some called him the ghost of Earth. Others called him the human with no past. But to a few old soldiers, he had a name. Jace. The same boy the queen once laughed at. Only now, no one was laughing. Far across the galaxy, in the ashes of a burnt-out colony, a group of alien soldiers stood over a defeated general. They were bleeding. Shaking. Behind them, one human stood. Alone. Sword smoking. Ice cold. The alien general spat blood. Who are you? The man stepped forward. His voice was quiet. She laughed at me once. Then he turned and vanished into the smoke. On Verexa, the queen's younger sister, Levira, walked into the royal chamber with a datapad. More stories, Seraka. Another colony attacked. No one saw the face of the attacker. Only the mark. The queen didn't turn around. Levira hesitated. The mark is human. Now Seraka looked. Her eyes narrowed. Which mark? Levira tapped the pad. Zoomed in. It was simple. Almost childish. Just 3 lines carved into the wall. But Seraka knew what it meant. The same mark Jace once drew in the sand when he was just a boy, right before he walked away. It was his sign. That night, Seraka didn't sleep. She stood alone in her glass tower, watching the desert. The memory came back, bright as sunlight. His eyes. His voice. That ridiculous promise. I'll marry you when I grow up. She had laughed then. Loud and proud. But now, the queen, who had broken kings and ruled galaxies, was suddenly quiet. Because something inside her wasn't laughing anymore. Back in a hidden warship, Jace sat with his armor half unzipped, staring at a small ring in his hand. It wasn't gold. It wasn't pretty. It was made from a piece of the blade he had nearly died holding. A ring for a queen. A promise forged in blood. His second-in-command, a battle-scarred alien woman named Kara, walked in. You sure about this, boss? She asked. You're going after a woman who commands fleets. Jace smiled. She laughed at me. Kara raised a brow. So now you're going back for revenge? He stood. No. I'm going back to finish the promise. In Verexa's palace, the queen's new lover tried to impress her with stories of conquest. She barely heard him. Her mind was elsewhere. She wondered if he was still human. Or if time had made him something else. The wind shifted again. The desert remembered. And soon, so would the queen. Because the boy she mocked wasn't just returning. He was bringing a storm with him. The sun was high above Verexa 9. The heat shimmered over the desert palace like fire in a dream. Queen Seraka sat on her golden throne, half bored, half distracted. Another diplomat was arriving today. Another face. Another voice. Another male trying to charm or threaten his way into her presence. She didn't care. No one had surprised her in years. But today would be different. The guards at the gate stood straight as the shadow walked in. He was tall. Human. Wrapped in a sand-colored cloak. His boots made no sound. His armor, barely visible under the cloth, was scarred. Marked by fire, blade, and time. He carried no flag. No royal document. No army. But he walked like he owned the world. Inside the hall, voices murmured. Alien nobles whispered behind jeweled fans. Who is that? Is that a human? He's not on the list. The man said nothing. He simply kept walking. His head never bowed. His eyes never left the throne. Queen Seraka leaned forward. Her heart did something strange, a small, sharp twist. She didn't know why until he removed the hood. It wasn't his face that made her breath catch. It was his eyes. Same stare. Same calm fire. Same human madness. Him. Older now. Harder. Sharper. And far too handsome. The room fell silent. The man stopped before her throne, just close enough to speak, but not too close to be killed. The guards watched. Tense. Confused. Queen Seraka tilted her head. She kept her voice even. You walked into my palace without permission. The man smirked. Last time I asked permission, you laughed at me. Her heart skipped again. That voice. Low. Calm. Dangerous. She narrowed her eyes. Say your name. Jace. A whisper. A lightning bolt. The nobles gasped. The name echoed. The queen froze. The same name from all those years ago. The child who promised her something so stupid it made her laugh. Now. He stood in front of her like a dream with muscles and a mission. Jace looked up at her. I believe you said, if I came back grown, you'd think about it. She smiled. It was slow. Dangerous. And what are you here to claim, human? His eyes scanned her, not like a soldier, but like a man who knew what he wanted. You. Gasps again. But no one laughed this time. Even the guards hesitated. Seraka leaned back on her throne. Her lips curled slightly. So you trained all these years, crossed galaxies, fought wars, just to flirt with me. He stepped forward, slow. No. I did all that, to keep my promise. For the first time in over a decade. Queen Seraka was speechless. Jace didn't wait for approval. He turned. I'll be staying in the guest wing. We can talk again, after you've had time to think. And just like that, he walked away. That night, Queen Seraka dismissed all her courtiers. She sat alone by her mirror, running a finger over her lips. The boy had returned. He didn't beg. He didn't kneel. He didn't even ask her permission to speak. He walked in. And flipped the entire court on its head. She hated that she was smiling. She hated even more that she was curious. In his room, Jace looked out over the desert from the balcony. He remembered the moment he stood in the sand as a boy, looking up at her throne. He wasn't angry. He wasn't obsessed. He simply remembered a promise. A challenge. A laugh. And now, it was her turn to wonder what came next. Queen Seraka was not a woman used to waiting. She was a ruler. A conqueror. A goddess in the eyes of many. And yet, ever since the human named Jace walked into her palace, bold, scarred, and annoyingly confident, she found herself doing something she hated. Thinking about him. He had been calm. Too calm. He had spoken as if he were not in the presence of a queen, but in front of an equal. No. Worse. Like someone who wasn't impressed. And that was dangerous. That morning, she summoned her court advisors. Test him, she ordered. Her tone was smooth but sharp. I want to see what breaks him. One general asked, you wish us to fight him? She smirked. No. I want him entertained. Let's see how long the human charm lasts. Test 1, the seductress. A royal dancer entered his guest room that night. Tall, Flawless, alien beauty. Skin like gold, eyes like fire. She circled him like a cat. The queen offers her gifts to honored guests, she purred. Jace didn't move. Didn't blink. He simply looked at her. Tell the queen, I'm not here for games. The dancer tried again. Fingers brushed his chest. Lips moved close to his ear. He stepped back, slowly, respectfully, but firmly. She'll have to do her own flirting. The dancer gasped. No one ever refused. She left. Flushed. Confused. Test 2, the public humiliation. Next day, Seraka invited him to a royal lunch. The palace garden. Dozens of nobles seated. Laughter in the air. She placed Jace at the lowest end of the table, far from her. Intentionally. And instead of fine food, she had him served dried ration cubes. Everyone watched. Waiting. He picked one up. Bit it. Chewed. Swallowed. Not bad, he said. Then calmly poured his water, smiled, and leaned back like he was in a 5-star hotel. No anger. No shame. Just cool eyes. Right at her. Seraka met his stare across the long table. Her fingers tightened around her glass. He was unfazed. Test 3, the false proposal. That evening, a young noblewoman, daughter of a high commander, was sent to Jace's room with a marriage offer. Royal blood. Wealth. Status. The woman even offered herself that night, all smiles, perfume, and soft skin. Jace let her speak. Listened. Then gave her a small coin. For your honesty. But I already proposed to someone else, a long time ago. She left red-faced. Angry. Seraka got the report within minutes. She laughed out loud this time, but it wasn't cruel. It was something else. Something closer to impressed. That night, she stood on her balcony, looking at the moons. Jace stood on his. A few levels below. He sensed her gaze. Looked up. Smiled. Didn't say a word. Just lifted a glass in her direction, then went back inside. The next morning, Seraka summoned him privately. No guards. No nobles. Just them. The room was quiet. Gold curtains danced in the breeze. The air smelled of flowers and heat. She wore something softer than usual. Not armor. Not royal robes. Something white. Flowing. But she didn't smile. Are you trying to impress me, Jace? He raised a brow. Are you trying to scare me, Your Highness? She stepped closer. Their shadows touched on the floor. You passed all my tests. So what now? She asked. You expect a kiss? A crown? A wedding date? He leaned in, voice low. No. I expect more tests. Seraka's heart beat faster. She hated it. She loved it. She was the queen. The untouchable flame. But this human. He didn't try to burn her. He let her burn herself. You're dangerous, she whispered. Only if you lie to me, he replied. Their faces were inches apart now. But neither moved. Because the game wasn't over yet. It had just begun. It was midnight in Verexa's palace. The moons hung low, casting silver light over the sleeping desert. Most of the palace had gone quiet. But Queen Seraka couldn't sleep. Not tonight. Not after everything. Jace had played every game without breaking. He passed every test, refused every trick, and somehow, without raising a blade, turned her cold desert heart warm. And worse? He didn't chase her. He let her come to him. She stood alone in her glass chamber, wearing a silk robe, staring out into the sands. In her hands was the small coin he had given her messenger. I already proposed to someone, a long time ago. His words echoed again and again. It wasn't just about flirting anymore. It wasn't even about power. Something deeper was rising. And that terrified her more than war. Suddenly, a sound. Sharp. Distant. Wrong. Then another. Boom. Screams. The wall shook. Seraka turned sharply. Flames lit the horizon beyond the towers. An explosion. Another. Guards shouted. Alarms blared. She stepped out to the balcony. And her blood ran cold. Enemy ships. Black flags. Metal beasts from the outer rings. Rogues. Assassins. Someone had betrayed her. Someone inside her court had called them in. They were coming fast. For her. Within minutes, the palace fell into chaos. Smoke filled the halls. Soldiers ran. Servants screamed. And in the middle of it, Queen Seraka ran too. Not away, but toward the throne vault. She had trained for war. She didn't need saving. Or so she thought. As she reached the marble corridor, a shadow fell from above, fast, silent. A cloaked rogue dropped down, blade ready, eyes full of rage. She turned, ready to fight. But before she could even lift her hand, a blast of blue light tore through the air. The assassin fell. Dead. Smoke curled from his chest. She looked up. He stood there. Jace. In full combat gear. Eyes glowing in the flickering firelight. Gun in one hand. Blade in the other. A calm storm. You always did have bad taste in guards, he said. She stared at him, breathless. What are you doing here? Keeping my promise. He stepped forward, blasted another rogue without looking. I said I'd marry you. Can't do that if you're dead. Together, they fought through the corridors. He didn't speak much. But he never left her side. At one point, she tripped over a broken wall beam. He caught her. Hands firm around her waist. For a moment, just a moment, their faces were close. Breathing heavy. Eyes locked. You're enjoying this, she whispered. Maybe, he said. Nice dress, by the way. Then he pulled her behind cover as another blast rocked the palace. By dawn, it was over. Bodies covered the floor. The sky was thick with smoke. But she was alive. Because of him. She stood on the rooftop, hair messy, robe torn, bruises blooming on her skin. But her eyes were sharper than ever. He walked toward her. Bloody. Dusty. Beautiful in the worst way. He handed her a broken crown, hers. Found this under a dead prince, he said. She took it slowly. You saved me. Would have been a shame, he said, to let you die before the honeymoon. She smiled. Truly smiled. And when she looked up to meet his eyes again, he was gone. Just like that. Vanished. No ship. No trace. Just the scent of war and the memory of his hands pulling her from fire. That night, she searched for him. All her systems. All her spies. Nothing. Not a signal. Not a ship trace. Not even heat signatures. Just silence. Like a ghost. In her private room, she opened her palm. There was a small stone inside. It hadn't been there before. A human engagement stone, old tradition. Simple. Unbreakable. He had left her a message without saying a word. I came back once, it said. Let's see if you do. 3 days passed. No word from Jace. No ship on the scanners. No message in her chambers. Only silence. And the memory of him pulling her from fire. Queen Seraka sat on her throne, staring into the open court. Her hair was tied back, her robe flawless, her crown polished, but something in her eyes had changed. She had ruled for years with pride, power, dominance. But now? There was a storm building behind her calm. A name echoing too loudly in her thoughts. Jace. Her generals entered the chamber. Cold-faced. Formal. They bowed. Your Majesty, there is a situation. She didn't look up. Another rebellion? No, the lead general said. A gathering. Where? Outside our borders. In the Saltlands. And who leads it? The general hesitated. Then finally said it. The human. Jace. Seraka's heart stopped for a second. Show me. A holo screen lit up. And there he was. Jace. Standing on a black platform, surrounded by hundreds of warriors. But not just humans. Aliens. Desert tribes. Even some of her ex-soldiers. He had united the castaways. The rogues. The forgotten. He wasn't a soldier anymore. He was a symbol. A movement. The man who walked into her palace alone now stood with an army behind him. The general scoffed. This is nonsense. A rebel with shiny armor. We can crush him. Another chimed in. He's only human. He was a child once, said another, laughing. Remember how he stood in the sand, thinking he could marry you? They laughed. Too loud. Too long. Seraka didn't. She stood. And yet that same boy saved me. The room went silent. She stepped down from her throne, voice calm but sharp like a knife. He walked into our home alone and made every one of you nervous. He faced assassins, politics, power games, and never blinked. He didn't need an army to beat us, but now he has won. They watched her. Confused. Uncertain. Some afraid. She stepped closer to the hologram of Jace. The man you mock, she said, has done something none of you ever could. He made me curious. He made me smile. He made me wonder. Meanwhile, outside the capital walls, people were gathering. Commoners. Desert clans. Old families who had been ignored by the Queen's rule. They weren't waving weapons. They were watching. Waiting. For the man who made a promise as a boy. That night, Seraka stood on her highest balcony. Alone. She looked over the walls and saw the distant glow of thousands of campfires. The army wasn't threatening her. It was just there. Existing. As if to say, we don't need your crown. We already follow someone else. Jace had said nothing. Still no message. Still no voice. But his silence was louder than war drums. She turned to leave and stopped. On the edge of her table lay something new. A royal sash. One only a consort could wear. It hadn't been there an hour ago. No one had entered the room. No alarm had sounded. But it was his. The same color as his armor. Same desert marks on the cloth. He had been here. Again. And left without being seen. She picked it up. Felt the rough fabric. She smiled. Not a royal smile. A real one. Show off. The next morning, as the Queen prepared to address her court, she wore something new. Her robe was still royal. Her crown still gold. But around her shoulder? Jace's sash. The nobles whispered. The generals froze. And one by one, they bowed deeper than before. Not just to her title, but to what stood behind it. To the man no one took seriously. To the boy they all laughed at. Who came back and made the galaxy kneel. The desert was quiet again. But it wasn't the same silence. It was the silence that comes after a storm. After something has changed forever. Queen Seraka stood on the edge of her throne balcony, looking out over the horizon. No army in sight. No banners. No rebellion. Only a single black dot far out in the sand. Slowly walking toward her palace. No escort. No guards. No weapon drawn. But still, unstoppable. The guards looked to her for orders. She raised one hand. Let him through. The hall was empty. By her command. She didn't want the court watching. Not today. Today wasn't about politics. Not about games. Today was personal. His boots echoed through the chamber as he entered. She didn't move. Didn't breathe. Not until he stopped just in front of her. Not kneeling. Not bowing. Just standing there. Like he belonged there. Like he always had. She looked at him. He looked at her. Neither smiled. Not yet. He slowly opened his hand. In his palm, a ring. Not made of gold. But forged from the broken metal of the blade he used to save her. The same blade that sliced through the assassin's chest. It was rough. Unpolished. But honest. Still laughing, he asked. Her eyes shimmered. Not with tears. But with something stronger. Not anymore. He took her hand. Slowly. Like it meant something. Like it always had. And then he slid the ring onto her clawed finger. It didn't fit perfectly. But it stayed. And that was enough. Silence. Breathing. Eyes locked. No kiss yet. No big music. Just the weight of everything they had both survived, and the power of a single promise kept. You were a child, she whispered. You were a queen, he replied. You were a joke, she teased. And now I'm your legend, he said. She smiled. You really came back. I said I would. He reached for her other hand, but she pulled back slightly. One brow raised. You still have to earn the rest. He grinned. I like a challenge. Outside, without a single order given, the capital's citizens began lighting lanterns. The city that once laughed at a human boy now lit the sky in his name. Somewhere far from the palace, a child in the sand whispered to his mother. Is it true? The queen married a human. The mother smiled. No, child, the human married the queen. Back in the chamber, Jace finally leaned forward. His forehead rested lightly against hers. Their eyes closed. Still no kiss. Still no crown swap. Just silence. Just breath. And the weight of a galaxy finally balanced. Because the queen who ruled worlds had finally met the man who ruled her heart. Not with power. Not with fear. But with a promise made in the sand. And kept.